Never one to shy away from a challenge. I thought I'd have a look today at the Johnny Walker Sustainability Plan. And as you can see, as we go through this, there's two huge challenges to that, but they'll become evident as we go through. Let's have a look. First off, Johnny Walker Sustainability Plan. That's what I bashed into Google and up it comes. So, well done. At least we've got a sustainability plan and Google's recognised it. We also have got a tab up here, which is on Restore, Reinvent, Reduce, Pulp Future. And there's a brilliant thing they're doing down here. Let's go into straight away the Pulp Future one down here. Look, they've got this paper bottle coming. Brilliant. I really like that. Really like that. I'll put that on the screen as I'm talking and you can see just how it's made. But I've done a number of these sort of videos, and all of the wine companies that I deal with have got basically a problem with the glass that the wine comes in, and it's 30% of the carbon comes from the glass. So if this paper bottle, which is way lighter, 75% lighter, it's made from renewable, recyclable, etc., if that could be reused in these other industries, absolutely fantastic. That would be great if it could be. It's got a coating on the inside. I think you might have seen that here, or it's sprayed. Hopefully that's not plastic based. I don't know. But, brilliant initiative. So well done, Johnny Walker. What else have we got here? Restore. This is problem one, okay? So, and I say there's two big problems with looking at this or trying to do this analysis. Problem one is to do with how whiskey is made. And whiskey is made by burning effectively peat, and the smoke from the peat comes up through a floor that's got some gaps in, and that smoke imparts flavour to the whiskey. Now, Johnny Walker used peat, I think, and it's not obvious how much they use. And see this sort of statement here, 3% of the world's surface is peat, and that 3% stores 30% of the world's carbon. So if they are using peat, this highly carbon intensive product is a problem, isn't it? Because they're using it up and they're releasing the carbon that the peat is storing. And I couldn't find any figures here about how much peat they're using. So that was a challenge, and they're certainly doing things to restore and regenerate down here. And when you click on here, it talks about all the initiatives they're doing. And the highlights, by the way, are my highlights. But here's the problem. There's no numbers on this. I don't know. They're working with the RSPB down here. RSPB, there we go. And they're helping the peat to rebuild. So I went along and say, how long does it take to rebuild? 10 years per centimetre. So I've got to admit, I've seen videos on the television about people digging long swathes through, about, almost half a metre to a metre. If this is to be believed from this government body, the Peatlands Department of Agriculture, etc., then if they got half a metre, which is 50 centimetres, that would be 500 years to regrow that peat. So whilst they're saying here, don't worry, we're helping back here, RSPB to rebuild, yeah, that's not a lie. It's just misleading, because if it is 500 years, lots of ifs, then, how much are they helping? Or is it just terrible to be taking it out in the first place? To put it in context, there was a fire in Indonesia in 2015, and the fire itself released 16 million tons of CO2 per day. Okay, now that's more than the entire of the USA produces in a day. Okay, so the fire in Indonesia was caused by the peat burning and released more carbon than the USA do in a day. Now, why was the fire started? And you can bash it into Google here. Why was the Indonesia fire started? And basically, to summarize what you'll see here, it was basically a scorched earth kind of policy for people, it was a deliberate thing. Well, that's the sort of the references I read today. A deliberate thing so that they can clear the land, so they can go into agriculture. What are they growing? They're growing palms for palm oil. And why is that relevant? Because in other areas of the Johnny Walker and Diageo site, they're starting to use bio alternatives to replace the peat, which is a good thing. But let's just tie the two ends together. It's a good thing as long as they don't use that Indonesian palm oil, which is really sort of disastrous, isn't it? Really, I mean, you burn the peatlands so you can grow palm, which is bio. It's got the big tick. It's got the big green tip. It's a biofuel, and then if they use that, then that would just be a disaster for the environment. And so I couldn't see much about the peat use of Johnny Walker here, and Diageo, Johnny Walker, if you've got any information on that, please send it through. I'd love to see it. I'd love to see some of the numbers. Also down here, I'm not seeing how much they're contributing towards the peat rebuilding here. They state that they are, but is that £1,000, £1 million, £10 million? I really don't know to what degree they're doing that. So that's problem one with Johnny Walker. Problem two, let's have a look down here. The restore with reinvent, yeah, they're doing lots of clever things, okay, with the packaging, which are good things. They've got a new centre here. Question is, how much carbon did that sort of generate? I've seen that building. It's on the corner in Edinburgh. It looks lovely. I've never been in. Looks lovely, but whenever you do building work, carbon is emitted, and that takes me neatly to problem two. And I said there's two massive. Peat is the first one. The second one here is trying to get some sort of figures here about Johnny Walker and some hard sort of facts about what they're doing, because it's part of a bigger group. It's part of the Diageo group. And Diageo group are massive, really, really, really large. And so if you go into the Diageo group here and have a look at their sustainability plans, they are, well, I haven't gone through it in detail, that's the sort of caveat, but they're pretty good. I think, will I go into it? It's a massive group, it's a lot of work. But what they're doing down here is a lot. And the problem you've got, the second problem, is that you can't see anything about Johnny Walker, or I couldn't anyway, in the Diageo sustainability plan, which looks good, by the way. So, as I would expect of a very, very large company like Diageo. So what I would love to see, and we get this a bit with some of our larger clients at Anistic, is the right level of reporting for the right level of corporate structure. So what does that mean? It means that it would be lovely if Johnny Walker had their own sustainability reports and their own ESG reports split out from the Diageo group. It's not easy to do that because there's a lot of centralized functions, a lot of centralized purchasing, etc., etc., etc. But, is it easy to talk about how sustainable Johnny Walker is? No, it's not, because, you end up talking about how sustainable are Diageo. And Diageo, 200 brands under management, it's a big, big, big beast to analyse. So when we come to scores, which I'll do in a second, I'm going to mark it down on transparency and urge large corporate groups to think about at what level they report, and try, if you can, to push the level of reporting back to match the level of brand representation, which is a long way of saying it would be lovely if Johnny Walker had their own report, okay, because that would then make it so much easier to see. In my experience as well, if you give a large corporate report to a brand manager, so say there's a product manager for Johnny Walker, I don't know whether there is, I assume there is in Diageo, but that product manager, it gets lost in the noise. If you go, here's a report and it covers 200 brands, can you please read it and act on it? That's difficult. Much better if you could say to the product manager at Johnny Walker and say, look, here's a report just for Johnny Walker, and see what she can do with that to try and work with the initiatives that they can influence themselves, and it's not just one big corporate blob. So, scores, looking at my notes here. Okay, so detail 3. There is quite a lot of detail in here, but there are no numbers relating just to Johnny Walker, as I said earlier. Okay, quality of plan. Out of 5, I'll give it a 5 because Diageo, the sustainability plan, which I had a chance to sort of look at briefly, is what I think it would be, is what I would expect. It is thought through and it is comprehensive and it looks good. Okay, actions taken. I'm going to give them a 3 out of 5 because of the lack of transparency. So if they can keep the transparency up, if they can get the transparency up by putting their own sort of Johnny Walker sustainability report together, that will go up to a 5, I suspect, but a 3 because of that. Transparency, this is where they're going to get hit really badly. It's a 1 out of 5 for transparency because I couldn't look at Johnny Walker's numbers, just Diageo. Effort, I'm going to give them a 3 out of 5 for that. It would have been a 5, except for that peat issue, which is just niggling in the back of my brain. Maybe it shouldn't, but it does. I don't know. That might be me not reading the reports in the right way. I don't know. But that peat, it just kind of niggles a bit with that. And I'd like to know more about what they're doing there and just what the numbers are surrounding that. So overall, add it up, 15 out of 25. Pretty good. Pretty good. I've seen a lot worse than this. Someone's put time and effort into it. They're doing the right things. There's a couple of misty parts, which I've gone over probably at length, no need to go over again. But apart from that, well done, Johnny Walker. Good effort.